Hi, ever wonder what it's like to work another profession or live in the underworld? Listen to unsuspecting riders give a 10 to 15 minute personal masterclass as I spontaneously interview them as they enter my taxi. I'm your host, Simon Rushton, and this is Taxi Chronicles. Morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. Today we are honoured to have a guy who's been brought up in Hong Kong, Irish guy, and speaks with a very British accent though. But he is Irish, for you fellow Irish people out there. And he's going to tell us what life was like for him growing up in Hong Kong. It's nice to have you here today, Ronan. First of all, before we get into it, what kind of person were you when you were at school growing up?
I'd say I was pretty regular kind of student, to be honest. I was hung out with the football guys and all that, did all that sort of thing. So it's still big footballing culture in Hong Kong. They love football over there. So wasn't too hard for me to make friends when I moved over.
Were you very sporty then?
Yeah.
Was it just football or other things?
No, it was always really just football for me. That was the big one. A bit of athletics, but never really anything much.
What age did you go to Hong Kong?
So I moved over when I was about 7 or 8, and then stayed there for a decade pretty much. Moved out when I was 18 to go to college.
Okay. So do you remember, what was a big culture shock?
Well, I'd previously lived in Belgium before that, so I moved from Belgium to Hong Kong. So I'd say the biggest culture shock was just that you have like 7 million people in a country that small, and so many like skyscrapers and everything. You pretty much don't have very much of a sense of personal space outside of kind of your own home. So it's very much like a compact place.
I hear the skyscraper, the apartments are really small.
Yeah. There's
Is there ones for expats that are a bit bigger, or is it just you get what you're given?
I mean, yeah, there's obviously there's places where there's a bit more space, and obviously you'll get bigger places there. But one of the big problems that they face in Hong Kong is actually housing prices and stuff. So the housing prices are pretty astronomical. So for people to basically live, it's kind of it becomes nearly impossible to own your own place. So you live pretty much the whole time renting unless you make serious money.
Is that so you're renting from the government or a private corporation?
Yeah, private corporations most of the time, yeah.
So they're making loads of money then?
Yeah.
Everybody's renting from them?
Right.
So you probably have like 6 or 10 monopolies of companies who build these skyscrapers?
Yeah, either that or just people who are multi-millionaires, because also the top income tax bracket in Hong Kong is only 15%. So people keep a lot of their income as well, so you got a lot of very rich people there.
Okay.
Because they get to keep the vast majority of their incomes.
If everybody living high up in the sky, the public services, they don't really need to be that much.
Yeah.
Is Hong Kong's just one island, yeah?
Yeah, well there's like a couple really small islands off of it, but for the most part it's pretty much just the one main one. And everybody lives on the main island? Yeah.
So the small islands, are they nature reserves or?
Yeah, nature reserves are just kind of people who want to live a bit more remote. So you'll get like a few people living on them, but for the most part it's just the main island.
So they must be quite free then, because they've got probably bigger places and loads of places to walk around in the bush.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's all kind of what you prefer, I guess, because obviously it's a lot harder than to get access to the perks of living in a city, right? So there's that kind of trade-off. But yeah, I suppose there is like smaller places for those who want to live a bit more.
Climate-wise, what are we looking at? Tropical, subtropical?
Oh, so hot, and like 100% humidity, pretty much. Yeah. So it's kind of, it becomes a bit unbearable. in summertime, because it could be like 35, 36 degrees and then like 100% humidity. So it's just.
So do you tan when you're out there, or you just sweat?
Well, I'm Irish, so I just burn pretty much. But no, yeah, you do sweat a lot. Yeah. So, but then obviously, I guess inside you've got really nice air-conned rooms and stuff. So, yeah.
So I take it a lot of people don't own cars if they're all boxed in.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people just kind of choose to go with it anyway. It's kind of like traffic doesn't really bother that many, but a bit like here, like the public transport, actually in the public transport in Hong Kong is actually really, really well done. I believe it's like one of the only public transportation systems that turns a profit every year, and it's like the equivalent to go from like one end of the island to the other through the train systems and stuff is probably the equivalent of like £1.50 or like £2.
Is the island bigger than London?
The island of Hong Kong?
Yeah.
I don't think so, actually.
Oh, so we're talking.
It's probably pretty similar size.
But 7 million. I'm just trying to work that out. Because you've got 7 million. The island's smaller than London. I suppose it's a question: is it half the size of or what, or a third? But that's quite packed. But it doesn't sound that packed. And considering they've got a coastline around the whole island, so it's not hard for you to get to the coast and things like that. What's nature like out there? Nature, any wild animals, snakes, those kind of things?
Yeah, snakes are definitely there. You see a good bit of snakes, mainly on like the hiking trails and things like that. But yeah, it would be that. And then you see like wild boars. You see a good bit.
Boars.
Yeah.
I wonder if those are from the British bringing them over.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. It's possible then.
Okay. So moving on, you studied. You said your dad was in design, fashion,
yeah,
things like that. But then you've spoken about what year did you leave?
I left in 2017, so 4 years ago now.
Okay. But you was involved in the protests?
Yeah, well, the first time around, I was down there on the protest sites, but I wasn't really properly like in the midst of everything. It was more just kind of on the outskirts.
So you could run away, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the first set, and that was probably in like.
Is that when they had the umbrellas? Did they have the umbrellas?
Right, the umbrella revolution.
Everybody had the umbrellas up, so CCTV couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you fearful for your life at any time?
No, I wouldn't say I was involved enough in the protest myself, and also, I mean, the first ones got violent eventually, but it wasn't as bad as this time around, in the sense that like they were kind of, I think they got a lot of media attention, and they got lauded for kind of being one of the most peaceful protests that people have ever seen. Like there were places for like university and school students to study whilst also being kind of part of the protests as well. So
they got organised.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. What are the protests about?
So the protests are about what China were effectively trying to do was choose Hong Kong's leader, and they were trying to pass a bill that would let them pick who leads Hong Kong, effectively just fully assimilating it into part of China. And with that, the Hong Kongese people felt like they were kind of losing their freedom. So that's where it kind of came from, in that Hong Kongese people would consider themselves Hong Kongese regardless of like the logistics around kind of the technicalities. So it was kind of trying to keep Hong Kong and letting them elect their own leaders, essentially.
Okay. Well, what would be your advice to someone who's coming to live in Hong Kong? As a Brit, as an Irish person, what would be the things that you learned the most?
The things that I learnt the most. I would first of all say do it. I think it was like one of the greatest places while I was there, and I really enjoyed it. But I'd definitely say get yourself ready for really hot summers, and yeah, I would say that it's not as big of a shock as you might think. Like, it does seem like a completely different world away, but you'll find similarities in the places that you go, and there's also massive expat communities there, so you will find people who are like yourself and have just found themselves in Hong Kong, really.
Okay, that's good. Last but not least, what's the impact you want to have on the world?
The impact I want to have on the world? Oh, that's a loaded question. I'd say just I'd say probably just like
go on.
Yeah, I'd say probably just having like the people that I know thinking that I was a good guy, really thinking that I'd conducted myself well throughout my life, really.
Okay. That's good. There is another question. The question goes, what does the future hold for you?
What does the future hold for me? This is a question I've been getting a bit because I'm graduating college in the next couple of months. So,
what did you study?
Business.
Okay.
Commerce, yeah. So, hopefully the future holds for me also a career in fashion. That's what I'd be hoping for. The business side of fashion, and what about that specifically? Who knows? But that's the fun of it all, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that, and we wish you well.
Cheers, thank you.
We hope you liked that interview. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get the latest daily episode. Ever considered investing in the continent with the fastest growing economy and population on Earth? The same continent that holds 30% of the world's known natural resources? Then listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where you will hear real investors with real stories from around the world share their experience of investing in Africa. We post Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m.